What's up, my friends? We are live and in living color. Night 2 of our 4th book. Let me get an early yawn out of the way there. I know. And I'll tell you, I hate to say it, but I think I'm going to be yawning a lot tonight. I could not. I don't know what it was. Maybe it was just the excitement of reading with you guys last night. I don't think I fell asleep until after 2 o'clock. I just couldn't. I was tossing and turning. And then I woke up at 6, a little bit after 6. Could not. Tried my darndest to fall back asleep. Could not fall back to sleep. So, yeah. So anyways, if I'm just like reading and I just pass out, well, then you know why. But I have a full cup of tea. I've got a cup of tea. And I've had quite a few cups of tea today. And I don't know. Somebody told me, I don't know if it's true or not. Somebody told me that tea has more caffeine than coffee. I thought it was the other way around. I think that's Farfignugan. I think whoever told me that was not being honest with me. I love how YouTube tells me that I'm going live. It sends me an alert. And it's always funny. Anyway, so we met 6. Sorry. Oh, we met 7 in Spain. Her CPAN is like, whatevs, son. I am no bueno with this fighting for Lorien nonsense. And I'm sorry that I don't know what I did to my wrist. I did something to my wrist, so I've been icing it up. So I may ice it up tonight. And then John and 6 are in a hotel healing up, right? And Sam is with them. So that's where we kind of left off. And I told you each chapter has a different font. Right, so they were talking, Sam and them were talking about what to do next. So John talking, I chew on the inside of my cheeks, thinking about how I'm going to keep him safe. And me and 6 alive without Henry. I turned to face Sam, who was stressed enough to be picking a hole in his black NASA shirt. Listen, Sam, I wish Henry was here. I can't even tell you how much I wish he was here, for so many reasons. Not only to keep me safe when we were running from one state to the next, but he also had all this knowledge about Lorien and my family. And he had an amazing, calming way about him that kept us out of trouble for a long time. I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to do what he did to keep us safe. I bet if he were alive today, he would not have let you come with us. There's just no way he would have put you in this kind of danger. But listen, you're here and that's that, and I promise that I won't let anything happen to you. I want to be here, Sam says. This is the coolest thing that's ever happened to me. There is a pause, and then he looks me in the eyes. Plus, you're my best friend, and I've never had a best friend. Neither have I say. Just hug already, 6 says. Sam and I laugh. My face is still on the screen, the photo of the TV. Oh, that's right. John's picture was on the news. And that's where 7 saw it on the internet. Whoa! Excuse me. The photo on the TV is the one that Sarah took of my very first day at school, the day I met her. And I have an awkward, uncomfortable look on my face. The right side of the screen is now filled with smaller photos of the 5 people who we were being accused of killing. 3 teachers, the men's basketball coach, and the school janitor. And then the screen changes yet again into the images of the wrecked school. And it really is wrecked. The entire right side of the building is nothing more than a heap of rubble. Next comes various interviews with Paradise residents, the last being Sam's mom. When she comes on screen, she's crying. Looking straight into the camera, she desperately pleads with the kidnappers to please, please, please return my baby safe to me. When Sam sees this interview, I can tell something inside him shifts. Scenes from the past week's funerals and candlelight vigils come next. Sarah's face flashes on the screen. She's holding a candle as tears stream down her cheeks. A lump forms in my throat. I'd give anything to hear her voice. It kills me to imagine what she must be dealing with. The video of us escaping Mark's burning house, which is what started all of this, has blown up on the internet. And while I was blamed for starting that blaze as well, Mark stepped in and swore up and down that I had no part of it, even though using me as a scapegoat would have let him off the hook completely. When we had left Ohio, the damage to the school had first been attributed to an out-of-season tornado, but then rescue crews filtered through the rubble, and in no time at all, 5 bodies had been found, lying equal distances from each other, without a single mark on them, in a room untouched by the battle. Autopsies reported that they died of natural causes, with no trace of drugs or trauma. Who knows what really happened? When one of the reporters had read the story of me jumping through the principal's window and running away from the school, and then Henry and I couldn't be found, he'd run a story blaming us for everything, and the rest had been quick to follow. With a recent discovery of Henry's forgery tools, along with a few of the fake documents he had left at the house, the public outrage had grown. We're all going to have to be very careful now, Six says, sitting against the wall. More careful than anything inside a crummy motel room. With six curtains drawn? I ask. Six goes back to the window and pulls aside one of the curtains to peer out. A sliver of sunlight cuts across the floor. The sun will set in 3 hours. Let's leave as soon as it gets dark. Thank God, Sam says. There's a meteor shower tonight. We can see it if we drive south. Plus, if I have to spend one more minute inside this crappy room, I'm going to go nuts. Sam, you've been nuts since the first time I met you, I kid. He throws a pillow at me, which I deflect without lifting a hand. I twist the pillow over and over in the air with my telekinesis, and then I send it like a rocket at the television, shutting it off. I know Six is right and that we should keep moving, but I'm frustrated. It seems like there's no end in sight, no place where we'll be safe. At the foot of the bed, keeping my feet warm, is Bernie Kosar, who's hardly left my side since Ohio. He opens his eyes and yawns and stretches. He peers up at me, and through my telepathy communicates that he is also feeling better. Most of the small scabs that covered his body are gone, and the larger ones are healing nicely. He's still wearing a makeshift splint on his broken front leg, and he'll limp for a few more weeks. But he almost looks like his old self. He offers a subtle wag and paws at my legs. I reach down and I put him on my lap and I scratch his tummy. How about you, buddy? You ready to get out of this dump? Bernie Kosar thumps his tail against the bed. So where to, guys, I ask. I don't know, Six says. Preferably somewhere warm to ride out the winter. I'm pretty sick of this snow. Though I'm even more sick of not knowing where the others are. For now, it's just 3 of us. 4 plus 6 plus Sam. I love algebra, Sam says. Sam equals X. Variable X. Such a nerd, dude, I say. 6 enters the bathroom, then exits a second later with a handful of toiletries. If there's any consolidation in what happened, at least the other guard know John not only survived his first battle, but that he won it. Maybe they'll find a bit of hope in it. Our biggest priority now is finding the others and training together in the meantime. We will, I say, then look at Sam. It's not too late to go back and put things straight, Sam. You can make up a story about us if you want. Tell them we kidnapped you, held you against your will, and that you escaped the first chance you got. You'll be considered a hero. Girls will be all over you. Sam bites his lower lips and he shakes his head. I don't want to be a hero, and girls are all over me already. Six and I roll our eyes. But I also see Six blush. Or maybe I imagine it. I mean it, he says. I'm not leaving. I shrug. I guess that's settled. Sam equals X in this equation. Sam watches Six walked to her small duffel bag beside the TV, and his attraction to her is painted all over his face. She's wearing black cotton shorts and a white tank top with her hair pulled back. A few strands fall loose around her face. A purple scar is prominent on the front of her thigh, and the stitch marks around it are a tender pink, still scabbed over. Stitches she's not only sewed herself, but she also removed. When Six looks up, Sam shyly diverts his gaze. Clearly, there's another reason Sam wants to stick around. Hello! Six bends down and reaches into her bag, removing a folded map. She opens it on the foot of the bed. Right here, she says, pointing to Trucksville, is where we are. And here, she continues, moving her finger from North Carolina to a tiny red star made in ink close to the center of West Virginia, is where the Magadorian Cave is, the one I know of anyhow. I look where she's pointing. Even on my map, it's obvious the location is very isolated. There doesn't appear to be any sort of main road within 5 miles, nor any town within 10. How do you even know where the cave is? That's a long story, she says. Probably one better left for the road. Her finger takes up a new route on the map, heading southwest from West Virginia, traversing Tennessee, and then coming to a rest point in Arkansas, near the Mississippi River. What's that? I ask. She puffs her cheeks and releases a deep breath, undoubtedly remembering something that happened. Her face takes a special look when deep in concentration. This is where my chest was, she says. And some of the stuff Katerina brought from Lorien. This is where we hid it. What do you mean? Where it was? She shakes her head. It's not there anymore. No, they were tracking us, and we couldn't risk them getting it. It was no longer safe with us, so we stowed it and Katerina's artifacts in Arkansas, and we fled as fast as we could, thinking we could stay ahead of them. She trails off. They caught up to you, didn't they? I ask, knowing her C-Pan Katerina died 3 years ago. She sighs. That's another story best left for the road. It takes minutes to throw my clothes into a duffel bag, and I'm doing it. As I'm doing it, I realize the last time this bag was packed, Sarah had done it. Only a week and a half had passed, but it seems like a year and a half. I wonder if she's been interrogated by police or singled out at school. Where is she even going to school since the high school was destroyed? I'm certain she can hold her own, but still, it can't be easy on her, especially since she has no idea where I am, or even if I'm okay. I wish I could contact her without putting us both in danger. Sam turns the TV back on the old-fashioned way, with the remote. He watches the news while Six goes invisible to check on the truck. We assume Sam's mom noticed it missing, which surely means the police are keeping an eye out for it. Earlier in the week, Sam stole the front license plate off another truck. It might help us until we get where we are going. I finish packing and I set my bag beside the door. Sam smiles when his picture pops up on the television screen, again in the same news cycle. And I know he's enjoying this small bit of celebrity, even at the risk of being considered a fugitive. Then they show my picture again, which means they'll also show Henry's. It rips apart for me to see it, even though the sketch looks nothing like him. Now isn't the time for guilt or misery, but I miss him so much, and it's my fault that he's dead. 15 minutes later, Six walks in carrying a white plastic bag. She holds up the bag and shakes it. I bought you guys something. Yeah, what is it? I ask. She reaches in and pulls out a pair of hair clippers. I think it's time for a haircut for you, Sam. Oh, come on, my head's too small. It's going to make me look like a turtle, Sam objects. I laugh and I try to picture him without his shaggy hair. He has a long, skinny neck, and I think he might be right. You'll be incognito, Six replies. Well, I don't want to be incognito. I'm variable X. Stop being a wuss, Six says. He scowls, and I try to be upbeat. Yeah, Sam, I say, peeling off my shirt. Six follows me into the bathroom, ripping the packaging away from the clippers as I bend over the tub. Her fingers are a little cold, and goosebumps sprinkle down my spine. I wish it was Sarah who was holding my shoulder steady to give me a makeover. Sam watches from the doorway, sighing loudly, making his displeasure known. Six finishes, and I wipe away the loose hair with a towel, then stand and look in the mirror. My head is whiter than the rest of my face, but only because it's never seen the sun. I think that a few days in the Florida Keys, where Henry and I lived before coming to Ohio, would fix the problem in no time. Uh-oh, Stella's yelling at me. See, John looks tough and rugged like that. I'm going to look like a turd, Sam groans. I am tough and rugged, Sam, I reply. He rolls his eyes while Six cleans the clippers. Down, she says. Sam obeys, dropping to his knees and bending over the tub. When she's done, Sam stands and flashes me a pleading look. How bad is it? You look good, buddy, I say. You look like a fugitive. Sam rubs his head a few times and finally looks in the mirror. He cringes. I look like an alien, he exclaims in mock disgust, then glances at me over his shoulder. No offense, he adds lamely. Six collects all the hair in the tub and she drops it in the toilet. Careful to flush every strand. She coils the cord of the clippers into a neat tight loop, then slips it into its bag. No time like the present, she says. We strap our bags across her shoulders, and she grabs them both with her hands and makes herself invisible, causing the bags to disappear as well. She rushes out of the door to take them to the truck without being seen. While she's gone, I reach up to the far right corner of the closet, toss aside a few towels, and I grab the Lorac chest. You ever going to open that thing or what? Sam asks. He's been excited to see what's inside ever since I told him about it. Yeah, I will, I say, as soon as I feel safe. The motel door opens, then closes. Six reappears and glances at the chest. I won't be able to make you and Sam disappear, and that. Only what I hold in my hands. I'll run it back to the truck first. Nah, it's okay. Take Sam with you, and I'll follow behind. That's stupid, John. How are you going to follow behind? I'll pull on my hat and jacket, then zip it up and pull the hood down over my head so that only my face shows. I'll be fine. I have advanced hearing like you, I say. She eyes me skeptically and shakes her head. I grab Bernie Kosar's leash and clip it to my collar. Clip it to his collar. Only until we get back to the truck, I tell him, since he hates walking on a leash. On second thought, I lean down and I carry him since his leg is still healing. But he tells me that he'd rather walk himself. Ready when you are, I say. All right, let's do this, Six says. Sam offers his hand to her a little too enthusiastically. I stifle a laugh. What? He asks. I shake my head. Nothing. I'll follow you as best as I can, but don't get too far ahead. Just cough if you can't follow and we'll stop. The truck is only a few minutes' walk from here, behind the abandoned barn, Six says. Can't miss it. As the door flings open, Sam and Six disappear. That's our cue, BK. Just the two of us now. He follows me out, trotting happily with his tongue dangling. Aside from quick bathroom trips to the small plot of grass beside the motel, Bernie Kosar has been cooped up like the rest of us. The night air is cool and fresh, carrying a scent of pine, and the wind on my face brings me instantly back to life. As I walk, I close my eyes and I try to sense Six by combing the air with my mind, reaching out and feeling the landscape with telekinesis. The same way I was able to stop the speeding bullet in Athens by grabbing everything in the air. I feel them, a few feet ahead of me and slightly to the right. I give Six a nudge and she startles. Her breath catches in her throat. 3 seconds later, she shoulders into me, nearly causing me to fall. I laugh, and so does she. What are you doing? Sam asks. He's annoyed with our little game. We're supposed to be quiet, remember? We make it to the truck, which is parked behind a dilapidated old barn that looks as though it's ready to collapse. Six releases Sam's hand, and he climbs into the middle of the cab. Six jumps behind the wheel, and I slide in next to Sam with BK at my feet. Holy crap, dude, what happened to your hair? I goad Sam. Shut up. Six starts the truck, and I smile, and she steers into the road, flickering on the headlights when the wheels touch the asphalt. What? Sam asks. I was thinking that out of the four of us, three are aliens, two are fugitive with terrorist ties, and not a single one of us has a valid driver's license. Something tells me things might get interesting. Even Six can't help but smile at this. All right. Chapter 4. That was a long chapter. I was 13 when they caught up to us. Six says when we crossed into Tennessee, 15 minutes after leaving the Trucksville motel behind. I'd asked her to tell us about how she and Katerina were captured. We were in West Texas after fleeing Mexico because of a stupid mistake. We have both been completely entranced by some stupid internet post that two had written, though we didn't know it was by two at the time, and we responded. We were lonely in Mexico, living in some dusty town in the middle of nowhere, and we just had to know if it really was a member of the Guard. I nod, knowing what she's talking about. Henry had also seen the blog post while we were in Colorado. I had been in a school spelling bee, and the scar had come while I was on stage. I'd been rushed to the hospital, and the doctor saw the first scar and the fresh burns and the burn all the way to the bone on the second. When Henry arrived, they accused him of child abuse, which was the catalyst behind our fleeing the state and assuming new identities. Another new start. 9, now 8. Are the rest of you out there? I asked. That's the one. So you guys are the ones who responded, I say. Henry had taken screenshots of the post, and I could see it. He had tried furiously to hack the computer to delete it before any damage could be done, but he hadn't been quick enough. 2 was killed. Somebody else deleted the post right after. We'd assumed it was the Magadorians. We did, simply writing, "We are here," and not a minute later the scar appeared, Six says, shaking her head. It was so stupid of 2 to post that, knowing she was next. I still can't understand why she'd risk it. Do you guys know where she was? Sam asks. I look at Six. Do you? Henry thought it was England, but he couldn't tell for sure. No idea. All we knew was that if they'd gotten to her quickly, it wouldn't take long for them to get to us. But how do you even know she posted it? Sam asks. Six glances at him. What do you mean? I don't know. You guys can't even say for sure where she was. So how do you know it was her? Who else would it be? Well, I mean, I watched the way you and John are so cautious. I can't imagine either of you would be doing something so stupid like that if you knew you were next, especially with everything you know about the Magadorians. I don't think you would have posted something to begin with. True, Sam. So maybe they had already captured 2 and were trying to draw some of you guys out before they killed her, which would explain why she was killed seconds after you responded. It could have been a bluff, or maybe she knew what they were doing and she killed herself to warn you guys away or something. Who knows? Those are just some guesses, right? Right, I say. But they are good guesses. Ones I hadn't thought about. Ones I wonder if Henry had. We ride in silence thinking about it. Six drives the speed limit and a few cars cruise past us. The highway itself is lined with overhead lights that make the rolling hills beyond look spooky. She could still have been scared and desperate, I say. That would have led her to do something stupid, like write a careless post on the internet. Sam shrugs. Just seems kind of unlikely to me. But they could have already killed her C-Pan, and she could have become frantic. She must have been 12, maybe 13. Imagine being 13 and on your own. I say before I realize I'm describing Six's exact scenario. She glances at me and then turns back to the road. We never once thought it was a trick, she says, though it kind of makes sense. Back then, we were just scared, and my ankle was on fire. Kind of hard to think straight when it feels as though your foot is being sawed off. I nod my head gravely. But even after the initial fear, we still didn't consider that angle. We replied, which was which was to put them on our tail. It was ridiculous for us to do. Maybe you're right, Sam. I can only hope we've grown a little wiser, those of us still left. Her last sentence hangs in the air. There are only 6 of us left. 6 of us against any number of them, and no way of knowing how we might possibly find one another. We're the only hope, strength in numbers, the power of 6. The thought makes my heart jump at twice the normal speed. What? 6 asks. There's 6 of us left. I know there are. So what? 6 of us. And maybe some of the others still have their C-pans. Maybe they don't. But 6 to fight who knows how many Magadorians, 1,000, 100,000, 1,000,000? Hey, don't forget about me, Sam says, and Bernie Kosar. I nod. Sorry, Sam, you're right. 8 of us. And then, all of a sudden, I remember something else. 6, do you know about the second ship that left Lorien? A ship aside from ours? Yeah, it left after ours, or at least I think it did, loaded with Chimera. 15 or so, and 3 C-Pan, and maybe a baby. I had visions of it when Henry and I were training, though he was skeptical, but so far all my visions have proven true. I had no idea. It took off in an old rocket that kind of looked like a NASA shuttle, powered by fuel that left a trail of smoke behind it. Then it wouldn't have made it here, 6 says. Yeah, that's what Henry said. Chimera, Sam says. The same kind of animal as Bernie Kosar? I nod, and he perks up. Maybe that's how Bernie made it here. Could you imagine if they all made it after seeing what Bernie Kosar did in that fight? It'd be amazing, I agree. But I'm sure old Bernie was on our ship. I run my hand down the length of Bernie Kosar's back, and I can feel matted scabs still covering most of his body. Sam sighs, and he leans back in his seat with a look of relief on his face, probably imagining an army of Chimera coming down in our aid at the last minute to defeat the Magadorians. 6 looks into the rearview mirror, and then headlights from the car behind us illuminate in a band of light across her face. She looks back at the road wearing the same introspective gaze that Henry used to have when driving. The Magadorians, she begins softly, swallowing as Sam and I turn our attention to her. They caught up to us the day we responded to 2's post, in a desolate town in West Texas. Catarina had driven 15 straight hours from Mexico, and it was getting late, and we both were exhausted because neither of us had had any sleep. We stopped at a motel off the highway, not all that different from the one we just left. It was in a tiny town that looked like something out of an old Western movie, full of cowboys and ranchers. There were even hitching posts outside some of the buildings so that people could tie up their horses. It was very weird, but we had just come from a dusty town in Mexico, so we didn't think twice about stopping. She pauses and a car cruises past us. She follows it with her eyes and checks the speedometer before turning back to the road. We went to get something to eat at a diner. About halfway through our meal, a man entered and took a seat. He was wearing a white shirt and a tie, and it was a Western tie, and his clothes looked outdated. We ignored him, even though I had noticed the others in the diner staring at him, the same way they were staring at us. At one point, he turned and he gazed our way. But since everyone else had done the same, I didn't piece it together. I was only 13 then, and it was hard to think of anything at that point other than sleep and food. So we finished eating and we went back to our room. Catarina jumped in the shower, and when she stepped out, wrapped in a robe, there was a knock at the door. We looked at each other and asked who it was. The man answered that he was the motel manager and had brought fresh towels and ice. And without thinking twice, I walked to the door and opened it. Oh no, Sam says. 6 nods. It was the man from the diner with the Western tie. He walked straight into the room and he shut the door. I was wearing my pendant in plain view. He knew immediately who I was, and Catarina and I knew immediately who he was. In one fluid motion, he pulled a knife from his waistband of his trousers and swung for my head. He was fast, and I had no time to react. I had no legacies yet, no defenses. I was dead. But then the weirdest thing happened. As the knife dug into my skull, it was his skull that split open. I didn't feel a thing. I learned later that they had no idea how the charm worked. They couldn't kill me until the other numbers 1 through 5 were dead. He dropped to the ground and he burned into ash. Wicked, Sam says. Wait, I interrupt. From what I've seen, Magadorians are pretty recognizable. Their skin is so white it looks bleached. And their teeth and eyes, I trail off. How could you not have known in the diner? Why'd you let him into the room? I'm pretty sure the scouts and soldiers look like that. They're Magadorians version of the military. That's what Katerina said anyways. The rest of them look just like normal humans as we do. The one who came into the diner looked like an accountant, wearing wire-rimmed glasses, black slacks, and a white short-sleeved dress shirt with that tie. He even had real dorky mustache. I remember him being tan. We had no idea they had followed us. That's reassuring, I say sarcastically. I replay the image of the knife plunging into Six's skull and killing the Magadorian instead. If one of them tried the same thing with the knife on me, right now, I would be killed. I push the thought away and ask, do you think they're still in paradise? She says nothing for a minute and then finally speaks. I wish she had stayed silent instead. I think they might be. So Sarah's in danger? Everyone's in danger, John. Every person we know in paradise. Every person we don't know in paradise. All of paradise is probably under surveillance. And I know it's not safe to go within 50 miles of it, or to call, or even to send a letter. Excuse me. Or they learn the pull Sarah has on me, the connection we have. Anyway, Sam says, wanting to get back to the story, the Magadorian's accountant falls to the floor and he dies. Then what? Katerina threw the chest to me and grabbed our suitcase. We sprinted out of the motel room. Katerina still in her robes. The truck was unlocked. We jumped inside. Another mob came charging out from behind the motel. Kat was so flustered that she couldn't find the keys. She locked the doors, though, and the windows were rolled up. But the guy wasted no time at all and punched straight through the passenger side glass and grabbed me by the shirt. Katerina screamed, and then some men nearby jumped into action. Others poured out of the diner to see what was happening. The Magadorian had no choice but to let go of me to face the men. The keys are in the motel room, Katerina yelled. She looked at me with the big, huge, desperate eyes. She was panicking. We both were. I jumped out of the truck and I sprinted to our room for the keys. Those men in Texas, they were the only reason we got away then. They saved our lives. When I came out of the motel room with the keys, one of the Texans was aiming a gun at the Magadorian. We have no idea what happened after that because Katerina sped away and we didn't look back. We hid the chest a few weeks later, right before they caught up to us for good. Don't they already have the chest from the first 3, Sam asks. I'm sure they do, but what use are they? The second we die, the chest unlocks itself. Everything inside becomes useless, she says, and I nod, knowing that much from past conversations with Henry. Not only are the objects worthless, I say, but they completely disintegrate the same way the Magadorians do when they're killed. Wicked, Sam says. Then I remember the sticky note I found when saving Henry in Athens, Ohio. Those guys Henry visited who ran They Walk Among Us magazine. Yeah, they had a source who apparently caught a Magadorian and tortured it for information, and supposedly knew that number 7 had been trailed in Spain, and that number 9 was somewhere in South America. Six thinks about it for a moment. She bites her lip and she glances in the rearview mirror. I know for a fact that number 7 is a girl. I remember that much from the ride in the ship. The second this leaves her mouth, a siren blares behind us. Oh no! We can read a little more. It's only 9:35. Right, Mr. Martin. Chapter 5. right? Are we doing okay on time? Yeah, we're thinking. We're fine. Okay. So the snow stops on Saturday night. The scraping sounds of shovels against asphalt fills the night air. From the window, I can see the faint silhouettes of residents throwing snow to less cumbersome places, readying themselves for the morning walk for Sunday obligations. There's a certain tranquility to the town at work on a quiet night, everybody bound by the same cause. And I wish I was there among them. And then the bedtime bell tolls. In the front room, 14 girls find their beds within a minute, and the lights are shut off. The second I close my eyes, the dream begins. I stand in a field of flowers on a warm summer day. To my right, in the distance, the outline of a ragged mountain range stands against the backdrop of the setting sun. To my left lies the sea, a girl dressed in black, with raven hair and striking gray eyes, appears out of nowhere. She wears a smile both fierce and confident. It's just the two of us. Then a great disturbance kicks up behind me, as though an isolated earthquake has just begun, and the ground is split open and torn apart. I don't turn to see what actually is happening. The girl lifts her head, beckoning me to take it. Her hand, beckoning to take it. Her eyes locked on mine, and I reach for it, my eyes open. Light streams in through the windows, while it feels as though minutes have passed. In reality, the whole night was gone by. I shake my head free from the dream. Sunday is the day of rest, though ironically for us, it's the busiest day of the week, starting with a long mass. Ostensibly, the large Sunday crowd is because of religious devotion within the community, but really it's because of El Festin, the grand dinner that follows Mass. All of those who live here must work it. My place is in the cafeteria line. It's only after dinner that we're finally free, and I'm lucky if we finish by 4. Then we're not due back until sunsets. This time of year, it comes a little after 6. We rush to the showers, quickly bathe, brush our teeth, and our hair, then dress in our Sunday best. Identical black-white outfits that leave only our hands and heads showing. When most of the other girls have fled to the room, Adelina walks in. She stands in front of me and fixes the neck of my tunic. It makes me feel much younger than I really am. I can hear the throng of people filling into the nave. Adelina remains silent. So do I. I look at the gray streaks in her auburn hair, which I hadn't noticed before. There are wrinkles at her eyes and mouth. She's 42, but she looks 10 years older. I had a dream about a girl with raven hair and gray eyes who reached her hand out to me, I say, breaking the silence. She wanted me to take it. Okay, she says, unsure of why I'm telling her about the dream. Do you think she could be one of us? She gives the collar a final tug. I think you shouldn't read into your dreams so much. I want to argue with her, but I'm not sure what to say. So instead I utter, it felt real. Oh, a little piece of lemon. How are we doing on time? Yeah. All right. Just a few more minutes. It felt real. Some dreams do. But you said a long time ago on Lorien that we could sometimes communicate with each other over long distances. Yes, and right after that, I would read your stories about a wolf who could blow down houses and a goose who laid golden eggs. Those were fairy tales. It's all one big fairy tale, Marina. I grit my teeth. How can you say that? We both know it's not a fairy tale. We both know where we came from and why we're here. I don't know why you act as if you didn't come from Lorien, and you don't have a duty to teach me. She puts her hands behind her back and she looks at the ceiling. Marina, since we've been here, we've been fortunate to learn the truth about creation and where we came from, and what our real mission is on earth. And that's all found in the Bible. And the Bible isn't a fairy tale? Her shoulder stiffens. She furrows her brows and flexes her jaw. Lorien isn't a fairy tale, I say before she can respond. And using telekinesis, I lift a pillow from the nearby bed and I spin it in the air. Adelina does something she's never done before. She slaps me. Hard. I drop the pillow and I press my hand to my stinging cheek with my mouth wide open. Don't you dare let me see you do that, she says furiously. What I did right there. That's not a fairy tale. I'm not part of a fairy tale. You are my CPAN, and you are not a part of a fairy tale. Call it what you will, she says. But haven't you read the news? You know the boy in Ohio is one of us. You have to. He could be our only chance. Our only chance at what, she says? A life. And what do you call this? Spending our days living the lives of an alien race is no life, I say. All right, let's call it quits there. That's good. We are up here. It is. We are doing good, my friends. We are doing good. So 2 nights of reading, and we are. This book is a little longer, I think. Let's see. No, it's. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. Don't yell. No reason to yell. This. Oh, yeah, this is a shorter book. So we're actually an eighth of the way through the book already. That's awesome. Awesome. And, we definitely are seeing some cool stuff happen. Like I said, it's really a cool, coming of age story. So, anywho, what's going on in the world, my friends, right? What's going on in the world? So I didn't see, I assume the governor gave a press conference today, but when I went looking for it, I didn't see an actual video of it. So I kind of wondered, are news agencies, I don't want to say giving up, but is it just not news anymore, right? Yesterday we hit day 100. So maybe the protests and whatever, that's the bigger thing. But, and it was probably out there somewhere, but I didn't see it. So anyway, what I did see was that there are the cases in Albany of COVID seem to be ticking up a little bit. And I don't know if it's really related to the protests that are happening, but it seems like Albany has things are, not like skyrocketing, but they're going up. And they didn't give specifics whether it was like people in nursing homes, right? That was kind of like the hotbed place, or where exactly these cases were. But things are on the rise. So today was the funeral for George Floyd. Oh my goodness, excuse me. Around the country, people were protesting peacefully, and at Ellis Hospital, apparently the nurses and the staff all took a knee at the time of his funeral. And apparently today on Lark Street, if you guys know where Lark Street is, there's Washington Park in Albany, right? One side is Quail, the other side is Willett, but then one street over is Lark. And Lark is kind of like, I think they still call it like the Greenwich Village of Albany. It's kind of like artsy fartsy. There are some bars and shops and eateries and all that, some art galleries and stuff. But that's kind of like an artsy-fartsy area of Albany. It kind of always has been, kind of like a cultural center. They always have Lark Fest there. But anyways, so they closed down the street, and like 3/4 of the street, maybe 2/3. Now, if you look at it from above, there were drone pictures. Black Lives Matter. They did this, I think, in D.C. They did it in New York. They've done it in a number of places around the country. So, this movement is not slowing down any. It's not. And there are a lot of questions still about the role of police, the role of states, cities, and the federal government in monitoring police departments. Should we have stricter federal laws? Should we have more, should the states monitor and really control their police department? So we talked yesterday that the House of Representatives passed a bill to make certain things that the police officers do regularly now illegal, and to create that national database. Now, again, that's not law. They simply passed a bill. The Senate still has to pass it. Then the president would have to sign it. Apparently, the Senate, controlled by Republicans, are not that far away on some of these things. So I'm not so sure that in its current iteration it's going to get passed. But I'm not sure, guys. I think that we might see this bill in one way, shape, or form pass. So, we'll see how it goes. Local stuff. So we talked about the state assembly passed a bill for New York State. It's got to go to the Senate in the state. Governor Cuomo today said, I want to sign this bill. So what is he doing? Well, he's playing politics. He's saying, hey, Senate, let's go. Pass this bad boy. The Senate is controlled by the Democrats, so I'm sure that they're reviewing it. But, more than likely, it will be passed. And I think we had talked about currently the state assembly and the state Senate are looking at 30 different bills to just deal with the COVID situation, much less this national protest movement. So again, we'll keep an eye on it. So a lot of the businesses that were destroyed in Albany are having a hard time, and apparently some state and federal grant money has been allotted for these businesses, to be able to do their repairs and open back up. I know I saw some places just barred everything up and put plywood up so that they wouldn't get hit. But I did see a big CVS the last time I went to my dad's, a ton of the windows had been smashed and stuff. So, I mean, it's right here. It's certainly not the scale, but it is here. There's no doubt that, this movement is here. So the Capitol District, or the New York State Capitol today, postponed the 4th of July celebrations. Now, I'll tell you right now, as a kid, we always used to go to it. It was a mob scene down there. I mean, it was a freaking mob scene. And people would start showing up at 10 a.m. because they wanted to get a good spot. And usually they did concerts and food and crap down there. So the whole day, that was whoa, a real kind of nutty place to be. But, there's no doubt you get somebody down there with COVID and wouldn't be pretty. So anyways, it's postponed. I don't know what that means, right? It's how do you celebrate the 4th of July in October? I don't know. So we'll see. We shall see what happens. All right. Oh, geez. So last but not least, so the president today tweeted that the man in Buffalo, the 73-year-old elderly man who was knocked over by the police was and you know what? I really should. I'm not going to guess at what he said. I hate to do it, but I'll Google it. Sorry for my phone. Here we go. Okay. So what did he say? He said that the guy in Buffalo was a Antifa provocateur. So he was saying that, let's see if I can. Where the heck did it go? Huh. Oh, so let's see here. Yes. Yeah, so he was an Antifa provocateur. I'm sorry. And so he's saying that this guy, Antifa is like this name, right, for this far left movement that wants to see, President Trump not be reelected. So he's claiming that this man, this 75-year-old, elderly, I don't want to say that he was disabled, but I saw this guy is not, he ain't a spring chicken, that this guy was faking it, that this guy, provoked the police, provoked the police intentionally to, somehow hurt Trump. Anyway, so today, many Republican senators were asked what they thought about President Trump's tweet. And none of them, at least the 12 or so that were in, there were two different articles about it, said, yeah, we don't know. We didn't read the tweet. So, Republicans, and Marco Rubio is one of them. Some of these big name Republicans are distancing themselves from President Trump. So, I don't know. I don't know what that means for November. I don't know what it means. But I don't know that a 75-year-old man would let himself get beat up by the police just to hurt the president. I don't know. Maybe. But without any real investigation, how do you know? I've never, here is the most powerful man in the world. All he would have to do is walk up to a member of the press and say, hey, I got something to say. And the whole world would be watching. But he chooses Twitter to communicate with us. And I guess I've just never understood that. Like, communication is so easy. Why would you use Twitter to talk to the people that you're there to represent, the people that you work for? We do not work for President Trump. He works for us. He's our president. I've never gotten it, and I don't know. I don't know why any politicians do it. I understand, posting things on Facebook, hey, I'm about to go live. I'm speaking on the floor of the New York State Assembly. Okay, I get that. But that's you hearing them talk. Paul Tonko does that. Chuck Schumer does it. Kirsten Gillibrand does it, right? Those are your three representatives in the federal government. Tonko is the House of Representatives, right? The 20th District. Gillibrand, Schumer, they're our U.S. senators for New York State. My representative in the House is Antonio Delgado. You probably remember the 9,700 commercials you saw and heard on YouTube and Pandora and the television when he ran against John Faso 2 years ago and won. Well, guess what? those commercials are about to come back, probably pretty soon. If they haven't already come back, I don't have television with. I have Netflix and all that, so I don't have TV with commercials. But I'm assuming, because I do watch YouTube regularly, that they'll start popping back up on YouTube. I'm assuming. But I don't think, well, that's the other thing, is I think the primary for that, I don't think that's happened yet. So it's probably on its way, because this November, Delgado's first term will be up. And as far as I knew, Faso was going to run against him again. I haven't seen anyone else. I don't know, you guys might not remember, you were probably in middle school. Holy crap. The commercials, I think, were just as bad. Zephyr Teachow. She was the woman who ran so that would have been 2014? And she lost to Faso, and then Delgado beat Faso. Holy moly, these commercials. All right, my friends. So here we are. In 1534, this day in history, Jacques Cartier, who a French explorer, he was the first man to enter the St. Lawrence River, right? Which I was talking to my son about this yesterday. The St. Lawrence is not actually a river. The St. Lawrence is an estuary. So it flows into the Great Lakes on the western side, and it flows into the Atlantic Ocean. So it actually moves with the tides, right? It moves and moves and moves. So he was the first one to actually travel that waterway. And here's another cool story. I don't know the exact date. And this historic marker is in a very kind of sad place, but it's a cool historic marker. If you go up to Lake George and then you take Route 9N, I don't know, whatever the Route 9 is that travels along the western side of the lake. I think it is 9N. Maybe it's 9. Yeah, I think it's 9N. Well, you take that all the way up to Ticonderoga, New York, okay? You'll go through Bolton Landing. You'll go through Sabbath Day Point, Diamond Point. You'll go through Hague, right? And then you get to Ticonderoga. And then what happens is it actually wraps around to the northern end of Lake George. And then it follows the Richelieu River over to Lake Champlain. Well, when you get to the northern part of Lake George, if you veer off Route 9 and you go over to the northern part of the lake, there's actually a beach there. And I'll tell you what, I've gone there. I've gone kayaking there. We've gone swimming there a couple times. It's a beautiful beach, and no one is ever there because nobody ever goes to the northern side of Lake George. Anyway, so not far from that beach is a historic marker, and that is where the first white man, Isaac Jogues, he was a Jesuit missionary. He was the first white man, we believe, the first white man to ever see Lake George, and they know exactly where he was when he entered the lake. And he was with, I believe, Mohawk Indians. He was with Iroquois Indians. I don't remember what nation, but more than likely it was Mohawk, because he lived with the Mohawk near Schenectady. But when he saw it, he was French, right? And he called it Lac du Saint-Sacrement. So if you look, or if you're ever up in Lake George, and you know there's those boats that you can go out on Lake George and tour around the lake. One of them is the Minnehaha. Then one, I believe, is the Huron. And the other one is the Lac du Saint-Sacrement, the Lake of the Saint Sacrament. So when he saw Lake George, he said that he apparently wrote that the lake was so beautiful that it must have been one of God's sacraments on earth. So that's French, not French explorer, French missionary. All right, 1856. On this day in 1856, the Mormons leave Iowa City for the Great Salt Lake, right? The Mormon religion actually begins here in Western New York. They leave Western New York for Illinois, and then their launching point in Iowa City, following a good chunk of the Oregon Trail out to the Great Salt Lake. On this day in 1863 is the Battle of Brady Station, which I guess was kind of a stalemate. But however, it was the largest cavalry battle ever on this continent. So the Northern and Confederate cavalry did battle at Brady Station. On this date in 1915, William Jennings Bryan, who had actually run for president about 20 years earlier, and is now the Secretary of State for Woodrow Wilson, resigns. Why does he resign in 1915? Well, he resigns because he is not happy at the fact that what the Germans are doing in World War I. And he wants America to enter the war. He wants America to fight Germany. And because the president refuses to enter the war, he resigns. On this day in 1943, I thought this was an interesting one because I actually had thought this had come a little bit earlier. But on this day in 1943, the government passes a law which now requires businesses or employers to withdraw some of your taxes. So it was just prior to that, right? And is it the 16th Amendment? It's either the 16th or 17th Amendment, right? Which approves a graduated income tax. You just paid your taxes, right? Now the government says, well, guess what? We need the cash money. So your employer takes those taxes out, send them to the government, and then you file your taxes in April, like we do now. And actually this year, right, you have up until July 15th. Then they say, okay, well, guess what? You paid a little bit too much this year. We'll go ahead and give you the money back, right? On this day in 1959, the USS George Washington becomes the first ballistic missile sub to launch and go into service. Not launch missiles, but the submarine itself launched and went into service in our Navy. So part of what we talked about here at the end of the year was the Cold War, right? The deterrent arms race. We build this, the Soviets build that. We build this, the Soviet build that, to deter each other from attacking. Well, having nuclear submarines, right, that could go right up to the coast of Russia or China or wherever and launch a couple hundred nuclear warheads, that's a powerful weapon. I honestly think that might be just about, or was for quite some time, the scariest weapon in the arsenal. We never did nuclear. We never actually put nuclear weapons into space. That probably would have been. But I think just having a submarine and I think some of our bigger submarines could hold like 200 and something nuclear warheads that you could park minutes from, right on the coast, minutes from, the Soviet Union, and just start showering the country with warheads, and they could do the same thing to us. So, pretty scary stuff. Last but not least, my friends, on this day in 1973, I don't know, I thought somebody might get a kick out of this. Secretariat wins the Triple Crown. Secretariat. I actually thought that was a pretty good movie. That was a Disney movie with Diane Lane, right? I don't know, 5 years ago, maybe it came out. It was a good movie though. John Malkovich is in it. Diane Lane, some other pretty well-known actors that you recognize. You never know their name, but you recognize them. So, anywho, my friends, another night. We are almost there, right? A week from today, we will be on. That will be last day eve, right? You guys will turn in all of your work. I think I had it turned in as of next Monday. That's it. Finish the end. Grades are done. I'm not going to bed until all the grades are done that night. And we call quits. So we're almost there. We're almost there. It's kind of nutty to think that March, right? So April, May, June, we won't have seen each other for 3 months. Add on another 2.5. So, and then 9 days, right? Because we don't start school until September 9th. So it's going to be almost a solid 6 months until we see each other in school. And that's if we're in school, which again, I'm trying to be not too overly optimistic here, but I think we're going to be in school. I think it's going to be weird, but I think that, unless there's some kind of crazy flare up, but I think if things kind of stay the way they are, I think we're going to be seeing each other in September in some kind of limited way. A lot of businesses are opening. A lot of things are not getting back to normal, but they are progressing in a good way. And again, I think numbers like in Albany are up a little, but I don't think they're up to the point where we have to worry. And I also, think that if this tracing is really in place, they're going to be able to say, well, hey, guess what? Why the numbers are up is because they're protesting. They're not up because, people are not in normal situations doing their thing. It's the protests. So, we've got to deal with the protests. So, and I don't mean stop the protests. I mean, solve the problem so that people don't have to protest. Anyway, I'm exhausted. I love reading with you guys. I'm excited. We're on our 4th book. We're an 1/8 of the way through the book already. We're rocking and rolling. So I'll see you guys tomorrow night, Wednesday night, for another night of reading. And we'll read Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Then next week, again, we're going to go. So we'll go Sunday, Tuesday, Friday, starting next week. So we're only going to read 3 days a week, but that's fine. We'll get to it. We'll get to it. So, but all right, my friends, be good. Have a great night. And get your work done, get some good sleep. I know I'm going to, because I am, like I said, I'm flipping exhausted. I don't know why I didn't sleep last night, but I'm going to sleep like a baby tonight. And if you need anything, stop by office hours, run the marathon, don't sprint, take your time. We're 1 week away. We'll get there. Get all that back work done, whether it be for your US or PIG or whatever. Just get your work done in your classes, finish strong. And, be good. I'll see you guys tomorrow night.